Today we are going to study math.
But I already learned math in school. Why do I need to study it again?
Because you learned the old math in school. The new math works differently.
How can math work differently? Math is math.
Well, the National Collegiate Athletic Association has changed how math works, so now we all have to learn the new way of counting things. It's quite complicated, so we had better begin.
Okay, I suppose. But I know things don't usually make sense when the NCAA is involved.
You are correct. That's why it's important to learn why your earlier education about facts and figures is now useless. Let's begin. So, the big change the NCAA is making to regular math is that it now works more like astrophysics. Remember that Einstein proved that space and time exist relative to each other, so when you move through space you also bend time. This means cause and effect are also relative. We see causes leading to effects, but it is equally true to say effects determine causes, because time is not linear and can move backwards.
I'm not sure I understand. Oh wait. Are you explaining why USC's appeal of its NCAA sanctions fell into a black hole?
Ha ha ha. See, you are already understanding the new math. That's a good example, let's start there. So, the NCAA's new math states that the same relativity Einstein described also applies to college football, and that punishments need to correct this.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because like the universe, football has a center where the important parts are, and places far away where football teams don't really matter. And just like Einstein says, when you look at these meaningless places, you are looking at the past, just like looking at a distant star. Just as that star might have gone supernova a million years ago, but the blast hasn't arrived here yet, when a school from the unimportant areas, like the West, or East, or North, does something bad, it is probably much worse than how it looks right now, because of the time distortion. And if something bad happens near the center of the football universe, it's not really as bad as it seems, because time moves faster there and the effects won't last as long. In fact, they are probably already finished. To correct for this, the NCAA has to adjust penalties depending on where the school is.
Wait. That doesn't make any sense. They are saying that when a school is far from the center of the universe, the penalty they receive determines what they did wrong.
Exactly. Einstein already proved this. Effects can determine causes.
Okay, but it still seems like they are making this up to justify how inconsistently they treat different schools.
That is correct. But they have proved they should be inconsistent. Mathematical proof.
Oh. What is this proof?
The mathematical proof is that the old math we all learned is wrong. This is why we need to learn the new math. Let me explain using the USC example. First, it is important to know where the center of the universe is. Do you know where?
Of course. The center of the universe is in Birmingham, Alabama. That's where the magical BCS came from, born from the womb of Roy Kramer, the Messiah who also ruled over the almighty SEC.
Yes. This is known. And is USC located close to the center of the universe?
Oh, they are far away. Very, very far away.
And we have proof they are the biggest cheaters that have ever existed in college football, don't we?
Yes, of course. If we didn't have proof they are terrible people and cheaters, then the NCAA wouldn't have given them the second largest sanctions ever given to a football team. And it wouldn't have made them forfeit a season and a national championship from a year they themselves said USC did nothing wrong. And they certainly wouldn't have felt the best way to protect the safety of student athletes was imposing a cap on scholarships so harsh that USC will have a smaller roster than an NFL team for many years. Every time one of those cheaters suffers a career-ending injury because of this, USC will be justly punished and reminded how horrible they really are. They are just so bad.
Do you know what USC's crimes were that they deserved this punishment?
It must have been something very bad?
Yes. A sports agent who was also a criminal provided improper benefits to the family of a player to entice him to leave the school. The NCAA's 5-year investigation uncovered a single call from this agent to an assistant coach's phone. Of course, no one knows what they might have discussed during the 90-second call, and it seems it was the only time they spoke. But that really doesn't matter. Because the NCAA discovered something even worse. No one in the administration or coaching staff was aware the player received any improper benefits.
But wait, wouldn't it be worse if the coaches did know that something bad was happening, and didn't do anything about it?
Of course not. If that were true, the NCAA would have had to punish schools like Ohio State, or South Carolina, or Auburn, or Miami, more than they punished USC.
Oh, I see.
This is how the NCAA realized that infractions are more serious, the farther away from Alabama they occur. Since USC's violation seems so insignificant, and did not benefit the school, it almost appears those terrible cheaters are completely innocent. Since that can't be true, the NCAA realized that what USC did must have been distorted by how far away they are from Alabama, and their punishment needed to correct this by being so harsh it could only be applied to a truly evil university. They had to change how math works so they can apply completely different standards to all schools, which is the only fair thing to do.
That is fascinating.
Yes, the new math lets them determine how much to increase penalties for schools that are not part of the SEC in order to correct this error of physics. It is called the Better Infractions Analysis System, or BIAS, for short. To apply the BIAS system, you just have to divide how much a university benefited from an infraction by the square root of the time required to drive from that school to Birmingham, Alabama. The formula assumes, of course, that you avoid travel on roads north of the Mason-Dixon line. So, let's calculate the bias factor that should be applied in USC's case. Please tell me when you have made the calculation.
I seem to have a problem. It's impossible to calculate the bias factor properly, because USC received zero benefit from their infractions. So the bias correction factor also comes out as zero. Let's see. The player's actions hurt the school, not helped it. Does that mean I should use a negative number for the bias factor, so their level of guilt is reduced?
Ha ha, of course not. This was a trick question. The NCAA also realized that in situations like USC's, being unable to calculate any benefit is another flaw in the outdated, old math. So they developed another correction factor to fix this. It's called the exemption sign for possible non-benefit. And it is very simple. Whenever the numerator is 0, like in your calculation, you simply change it into a 1.
Wow. That is quite a correction. It seems like using this ESPN factor completely reverses the perceived benefit. So the less a school benefited, the more it did wrong.
Yes, that's right. You are really picking up on this new math. It is a necessary correction, because without using the ESPN factor it is impossible to make something out of nothing, and then it becomes impossible to properly apply bias to the school in question.
Okay, I think I am beginning to understand. So when I apply the proper bias and add in the ESPN factor, I can calculate why the NCAA decided USC should effectively receive the death penalty because a single player took benefits without the school's knowledge, but that Auburn should not be penalized after it was discovered a player's father had solicited bribes from the school, selling the talent of his child to the highest bidder, which the FBI may be looking at during its investigation of university-wide corruption at Auburn.
Exactly. Of course, the first few times bias was applied there were some minor glitches. For example, it turns out the NCAA was too lenient with USC's punishment. Instead of their program being destroyed, USC finished 10-2 this year, and will likely be a preseason #1 pick next year. So the NCAA put a new system in place to ensure the bias factor is applied without bias. It does this by having 9 independent computer nerds calculate the bias factor, using complex algorithms that cannot be verified by normal humans. Then it drops the highest and lowest scores and averages the rest to get the final number.
That does seem fair.
Yes, and to ensure the computer polls are not overweighted, the bias system also surveys certain college football coaches, letting them vote how severe penalties should be.
Oh, I see. Well, I suppose USC can say it won that particular national championship.
Ha ha. Yes, let's give them that crown of thorns.
There's still something I don't understand. Schools like Ohio State aren't located anywhere near the SEC, so their penalties should also be more severe, shouldn't they?
Well, think of it like the solar system. If the SEC is the sun, it is a series of planets revolving around it. The NCAA is the largest of these, locked in orbit by the gravitational pull of tens of millions of dollars in profits the SEC provides to it each year. And the NCAA is located in Indiana, which is pretty much the same as Ohio. Those Yankee Midwestern states are all the same.
Oh, now it makes sense. Just one more question. Sometimes there are discrepancies between punishments even when both schools are in the South. For example, Auburn probably only bribed the family of a single player. But a convicted felon in Miami is offering documented evidence that an entire system of boosters gave Miami's players ongoing cash benefits, drugs, prostitutes and luxury goods, for close to a decade. But Miami has received no penalties, while Auburn was forced to hold the player out for 2 entire quarters of a football game. Why?
Miami is a special case. The presence of one individual there acts like a singularity, or black hole, when it comes to their behavior, as if this single man has the gravitational pull of an entire planet.
He.
Why are you laughing?
You must be talking about Paul D. He has the same weight as a planet.
Yes, I know. He is hideously fat. But that is not the kind of weight I am talking about. You see, Paul D is spread out across both the center of the football universe and its margins. He was the athletic director at Miami during the years they made a mockery of NCAA rules. But he was also the chair of the NCAA Infractions committee that gave USC such unprecedented penalties. Obviously, he has changed his ways, and is now a model of propriety and fair treatment. So, none of his former violations count.
He.
Yes, I know. Hideously fat. Do you have any more questions for me?
Only one. The new math scares me. It seems that over time, concentrating all the power and influence of college football in a single location will pull everything down into a gravitational well, until there is no energy or passion left and football becomes like a dead neutron star, cold and unexciting.
Yes, that is the inevitable final outcome. In fact, you will be able to see it happen live on television during the 2012 BCS National Championship game.